And now we talked about boundaries and how happy people have boundaries. We have a couple more left. The next one is that happy people forgive. Happy people forgive. The evidence affirms that when you forgive others, you are the biggest beneficiary. Dr. Henry Cloud. So what is forgiveness? Well, forgiveness is defined as canceling a debt. In other words, someone owes you and you literally hold it against them. And that's called a debt. Therefore, to forgive someone means they no longer owe anything because you've let go of that offense. This is like just like a bank lets go of a loan or writes off a loan and just you're free to go. It means you have to let go of a number of things. First of all, forgiveness means letting go of the need to get even with someone and all the negative emotions that go along with that, letting those go. Forgiving means that you let go of the desire to hurt that person, to hurt her or make her pay or make her feel bad. That's forgiveness. Also, letting go of the demand that she or he make it right with you again. Letting all that go is part of forgiveness. If you're still demanding something, trying to get even, or desiring to hurt that person, you haven't forgiven them yet. In short, you are free. Forgiveness gives you freedom from the one that hurt you. Okay? The person no longer has power over you because you've forgiven them. So you are a benefit as well as benefiting them by forgiving them. Now, some people would rather hold on to their unforgiveness. Let me tell you about that, how unforgiveness will affect your life and not cause you to be a happy person. It affects our ability to have real relationships with people. It gets in the way of those relationships. Unforgiveness causes us to carry past debts and injuries into the present, so it's still in there in our minds and hearts. Unforgiveness generates negative feelings and energy daily in our heart and in our soul due to holding on to that past offense. So if you don't want negative energy, you want to forgive. In time, the unforgiveness causes real emotional and even physical problems. People have reported. Forgiveness, though, breaks the chain. It cuts the cord between you and that hurtful event. And between you and a past hurtful event. To have good relationships now, we must forgive the not so good. Now, you can't forgive what you don't acknowledge. There's one principle: is you can't forgive what you don't acknowledge. And a student asked me, what does that mean? You have to acknowledge it. Well, to forgive requires first that you have to name the offense. You can't forgive something that you haven't really dealt with. And so you have to name it. You have to say, this is what I have against you. And this is the problem. This is what you did to me. You have to name it first before you can let it go. You can't it was all right. It didn't really hurt that much when you beat me up, That's not forgiving. You have to say, yes, it really hurt. It really caused this pain, this, and this. And now that I've named it, I'm going to let it go. It requires that you feel the feelings of that pain that they caused. It requires that you talk about the pain and anger. And we're not saying you go on forever and ever, but at that moment of forgiveness, you have to deal with it. There's a place and time where you have to process that pain and realize something evil or bad was done to me, because if I don't acknowledge it, then I can't forgive it. And then after you've acknowledged it, after you've gone through it, and sometimes you need your support community, like we said, to deal with these things. Both the horizontal and the vertical. And then you grieve it. You grieve it. You wail, you cry, whatever you need to do, but you grieve through it. Yes, it was tough. It has to be embraced in order to be worked through. There's a great movie we saw recently again called Bruce Almighty. We love the movie Bruce Almighty. It's about a guy who wants to be like God. He thinks God doesn't do things right, and so God actually gives him a chance to be God, and it doesn't work out very well for him. But in that movie, he has a girlfriend, and he doesn't do very well with his girlfriend either. And even with all his powers, he can't make her love him. And they go through a really bad breakup, and she's and he's been offensive in some of his ways, and she's talking to her higher power, to God, and about it, and she says, help me to let him go. And she's crying, she's grieving over it. She says, I don't want to hurt anymore. Help me to forgive. Help me to move on. And that's what we're talking about. If you watch the movie, you'll see that grieving. You have to grieve it to move on. Has to be embraced in order to be worked through. Forgiveness has to do with the past, but trust and reconciliation have to do with the future. You can forgive anyone, but trusting someone requires that the person be trustworthy. Trust is earned, and we entrust our hearts and our possessions to those who prove themselves trustworthy. Forgiveness takes only one person, you, but reconciliation, that is reconciliation, getting two parties together so that they're one again, that they're in community again. This takes two people. It requires that the other party, the other person, own what they have done against you, and that they apologize, and that they have a desire to reconcile and have a relationship with you, whereby that person stops doing whatever it was that you need to forgive. You can't if someone keeps punching you like a punching bag every time you meet them, you can't reconcile with that person until they recognize that they're punching you, that they agree to stop, and they show that they're going to be a trustworthy person in time. They prove to you that they're going to be trustworthy. It's hard to reconcile. It's impossible. But you can forgive them, but you cannot always trust them. The power to forgive. We are able to forgive others because we have been forgiven. We love because we have first been loved. We must embrace love first to be able to love others. So, if you haven't embraced love, you are not able to love others. You must first embrace it in your own life. We must choose a system of grace, which means favor, and mercy over law and justice. If all we're trying to do is get back what we got, get things back, if it's all about law, and we're always looking at this person did this person did that, and not full of grace and mercy, we won't be able to forgive. If you want grace for yourself, then you can't be on the justice system forever for others. If you're always in the judgment seat for others, it's going to be difficult for you to forgive and to accept grace yourself. If we are critical and unforgiving, then it will be difficult to feel forgiven ourselves. So, there's a principle here. If you want to be forgiven, you must also forgive others. So that's forgiveness. We must forgive. Happy people forgive, and they're happy.